It's going to fall for either hand or not. Oh, come on! Come on! David Beckham! Oh, goodness me!
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Clash of Cosmos. This is episode 3. I'm currently doing this voiceover in post-op as I ran into some issues with Riverside. But want to give a special shout out to Andrew, who is our special guest for the pod. But without further ado, I will give it back over to myself to introduce this upcoming episode. I'm Dylan alongside Dari, and today we have a very special guest. Andrew, welcome to the pod.
What's up, Dylan? What's up, Dari? Great to meet you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. So me and Dari and Mila, who's not here today because he's in Europe, have noticed we've been talking and chatting on TikTok and seeing like everything that you do with the Galaxy set of stuff, including your reporting. So I just kind of want to toss it to you. You can tell our listeners kind of what you do with the Galaxy and, how you think of the team so far.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm really just a fan who's lucky enough to get a pretty cool perspective of the team. I'm most active on Twitter. This is my favorite social media. It definitely was before the Musk days. Now it's a little bit interesting, but I'm definitely active on there. I have a page called Nuestra Galaxia Futbolera, where a couple of my favorite clubs, the Galaxy being the main one for sure. But you'll also see me talk about Orange County SC, a little bit of Angel City, a little bit of Real Madrid, a little bit of Fiorentina. So whatever I'm into, I like to talk about there. And I also write for Los Angeles Sports Nation. That's where you could catch my Los Angeles Galaxy coverage. Lucky enough to get some press passes pretty often, so we're in there getting good coverage, getting a chance to ask Vanny, the players, some questions. So you can find all that reporting on Los Angeles Sports Nation.
Heck yeah. It's been pretty cool. I mean, obviously we're just starting in the Galaxy kind of media realm and learning about stuff, but it's cool to see that you follow Orange County as well, because we're both from Irvine. So
Awesome.
Yeah, that's right in our backyard. So very cool. But yeah, I'm gonna throw it right back to you. We're 3 games in here. We're recording right after the loss in the Champions Cup. What have been your overall takeaways and your first impressions of this new look Galaxy team?
Yeah, I mean, new look. I like that word because it's pretty accurate, but it's not necessarily in the best way.
Alrighty, sorry we had technical issues, but Andrew, right back to you.
Yeah, so I was about to say it's a new look, but when you say that, it's typically for a good reason. You've got some new signings, some new people coming in, something exciting to talk about. But this year, it's been kind of the opposite. Some big departures in this winter window. Mark Delgado to LAFC is one that stings a lot. Gaston Brugman to Nashville is another one. Dejan Joveljic, probably one of the most heaviest ones that we're feeling right now with our lack of goal scoring, but lots of big losses in really big key areas. And on top of that, we have just a litany of injuries. The most impactful, maybe the one that everybody knows about, is Ricky Puig. To lose him, it's obviously been massive. He's such a special player, and it's kind of impossible in world football to replicate someone like him, much less in this Galaxy squad. And then there's just so many other injuries as well. We're 2-3 games in, and about 5-6 of our starting 11 injured. Joseph Paintsil, Mickey Amane, Sanabria just had a fractured collarbone in that last game up in Vancouver. So there's just so much going against the Galaxy this year, and it's been showing in their play style and the results. 0 for 3 to start the year, 1 goal, no clean sheets. It's been really rough. But when you look at everything that we just mentioned, you can kind of see why. It almost makes sense. On top of that, you have a lot of young guys, lots of new players who don't necessarily know Vanny's system, who are learning on the job. It's just when you're learning on a job with the B team, essentially, you're going to see what we've seen so far. So it's been pretty rough viewing, but I mean, you can always hold out hope that Painter will be back in a couple of weeks. That will get maybe some more threat, someone to help out Peck a little bit from that. But it's at this point, I'm keeping my eyes towards the future. I don't want to say that the beginning of the season is a wash, but it starts to feel like that. But yeah, you just kind of have to keep calm, trust the process, and know that there's all these other factors that we're not really seeing the true Galaxy right now.
Yeah, it almost feels like a weird coping mechanism. we're just at a weird point in any franchise season. I don't think any other club and outside of the MLS can understand what it takes to be an MLS club. Like, you win a championship, and here we're going to take everything that you've had and we're going to rip it away from you right from the start. And then we've just had that compounded with just the worst injury crisis that you could imagine from the start of the season. Dari, do you have anything that you've seen from this team that's you want to maybe go positive, or do you want to continue on the
I
hurting
think
side?
if we're trying to find something positive, I honestly think today's performance wasn't terrible given the squad that we had to put out. First half, we were playing positively, and it looked like we were going to score. And then when that second half came along, we just kind of ran out of gas. It looked like Royce ran out of gas really early. And I mean, some of the young guys looked pretty promising. I saw some encouraging plays from Miller, but other than that, yeah, it was already predicted to be a rough start to the season before all these injuries, and now it's just one thing after another.
Yeah, I don't even know really where to start. Obviously, the answer is in front of us, right? It's like injuries and you lost players, like pretty straightforward. But I think in our eyes and what Vanny's got to be looking for, it's got to be solutions, right? And this is where I think that Vanny, and where I had issues with him back in the days before we had all these, freak players, was where's the adjustment? Where are we going to see some change? In our last podcast, Andrew, we talked about the idea of the 5-back or the 3-back with the wing backs in play. And we saw it in the first half. I was actually very pleased that we saw it. Yeah, I can't. I've been asking for it for years. So to finally see it in fruition and right in front of my eyes, I was like, "Oh, this is the best day ever." It didn't come to goals, and we didn't actually see the result we wanted. But I thought that was the best half of football that we've played. I don't know what your guys' thoughts were on the match, but maybe let's focus on the first half here, and we can go to where it went wrong. But I thought that the back five is, in my opinion, I think that's the way to go until we get healthy. I even think if we do get healthy, I still think that might be the best potential outlet for this team.
The personnel we have now, it might just be the best option. I agree.
I mean,
yeah, it was definitely good to see some flexibility from Vanny, like you mentioned in the past. You see him stick with his guys, stick with his ideas, really be a little bit stubborn, maybe. But so to see him open to trying new things, maybe his hand was a little bit forced. So, but it was good to see it either way. Yeah, like you guys mentioned, that first half was probably the best half we've seen of the Galaxy so far. A little bit more dynamism, a little bit more life, some excitement, really. But at the end of the day, it still feels like it's Peck against the world, right? It feels like pass the Peck and inshallah, we'll see what happens. I mean, Peck is obviously a fantastic player. I absolutely love him. But when he's constantly getting double, triple teamed, it's almost like, what's the point? He can only do so much on his own. He's got to maybe look for a lucky bounce, defender to make a mistake or something. And when it's just him really causing that threat, that's never really going to happen. So I love that idea of the 5 at the back, get some more width, get Alden more involved, use maybe more of that left side to sort of split the defender's attention. But Alde's obviously still not 100% there. He's a great player, I think, but I think he's coming into the season. He showed really, really good fight in this game. Especially towards the end in that second half, it looked like he was one of the brighter spots of the game, really pushing the team forward at the end of the game. But you just want to see some more final product, and onto that, Diego Fagundes at the end of the game, some really, really good chances to put in some great services in, and just sticking with that Trivela. Both times, just awful connections, and that's not what you need, especially from an experienced player like Fagundes. So I think Vanny did what he could, right? Like, he switched things up. He put different people, put people in the positions to impact the game. Maybe they just didn't. Something that I thought was a little bit interesting was Elijah Winder. I had put in a comment on one of your guys' videos today that I was looking forward to seeing him. I think he's a really exciting attacking prospect. He looked really good to me in his debut against San Diego. Really nice attacking guy, really good at driving the team forward. And that's what this team needs, right? An attacking dynamo, someone to get them up the pitch. So I was hoping to see more of that from him. But when he came in, he was kind of level with Edwin Cerrillo, a little bit more of a deep lying midfielder. And it just feels like we weren't able to see the best of him in that position. And we saw that when he ends up giving away possession deep in his own half, giving away the goal. So it's putting players maybe round, square pegs and round holes a little bit. But Vanny's doing his part. The players maybe need to respond a little bit better, is what it maybe comes down to.
Yeah, I think he definitely looked out of position, looked uncomfortable in that deep lying role.
Yeah, it's weird. You got to have grace for him. His third high at this level, his third game was at the highest level of American football, right? Like this competition is the highest that it gets, and in his third match that he's ever played, he's doing it in Costa Rica after the super long trip. I have grace for him. I don't. He's not the reason that we lost today. He makes an error. It's an insane shot from their captain,
They
right?
should
Like
have had
that's
3 goals before that, though.
yeah. And I honestly, and then maybe this is the talking point that everybody's been kind of tiptoeing around, but no one really wants to say. Royce is really out of place here.
Yeah.
I'm starting to lose the idea of him starting games and being this impactful player. And with Ricky out, I just don't really see his fit anymore. I don't. He was not great in the 8. I thought he lost the ball more times than he made stuff happen when he was playing in the 2 with Cerrillo. And then when Vanny initially made those subs, I was like, oh, Royce is coming off for sure. Looking leggy. He's not getting back in transition. We're losing the pace a little bit here. We're getting beat. Literally Cerrillo was out on an island here trying to mark 3 or 4 guys. Right? They played a 4-5-1, and he was dead alone. And he kept Royce out there, and I thought Winder honestly made the mistake because in the first half, Royce was picking up that pocket of space, and because we went and kept him on the pitch, I'm starting to, and I said this last pod, I think that he's a 30-minute player. I just don't think that he can give you any more than 30 without losing his productivity.
Yeah.
If that was all with
that deep lying role is effective for him at all. It looks more harmful than it is helpful to the team.
Me and Dari are both United fans. It feels like they're trying to do, especially in the 5-back setting, they're trying to put the Royce in that Bruno role right now.
Mm-hmm.
But Royce doesn't have that. He doesn't have that long ball, so it's just pointless. You're just running an old man out there who doesn't have the legs to be in this role, and you're asking Cerrillo to do way too much. And I know that he's kind of pigeonholed because there's no other options. Like, right, you're going to put another. We already started with 2 17-year-olds. You're going to put another under 20 player in. Like, what are you really going to do? I just think that if you're going to play Royce, it's got to be super limited. And I'm struggling to find the solutions here. Do you have any ideas of the Royce problem and what Vanny maybe should go to?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it. I want to say in the presser against San Diego, Vanny even spoke to that Royce right now is a 60, 70-minute player. And I mean, you said 30, I think maybe 60, 70 is being a little bit gracious. Today, he played 70-ish. But I mean, like you mentioned, it was just gas, not really giving much by the end of that game. And sure, there's a bunch of travel. He just played again on Sunday. But the onus really is on him to step up for the Galaxy. We signed him for a lot of money. He's probably, when you look at salary cap and while we had to let go of players like Delgado, like Gaston Brugman, he's a big part of that. So you need him to deliver at least a little bit more. To say that you're going to get at most 60, 70 a game from a player, it's not necessarily the best exchange rate, right? But, I mean, the idea of Marco Royce at the LA Galaxy is just, it's so good. In theory, it's one that it's like, it almost feels like a match made in heaven just when you think about it. It's a very FIFA transfer, but it sounds good. It sounds too good not to work. So it's super disappointing to see it not really achieve that potential. But again, you just go back to the rest of the situation, all the injuries, everything else around him, to expect him alone to pick it up. It's maybe placing too much of a load on, like you guys mentioned, older legs. So it's tricky. I don't want to discount it, but I've always seen Royce as an impact sub. someone to come in those last 30, maybe 60 minutes, like you mentioned. But when we have no other options, he has to start. So again, it's another situation: square peg, round hole.
Uh-huh.
A player who isn't designed to start, we have to start him. So it's just, it's not too surprising when you just look at everything. But man, you'd really want a lot more.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw out an idea, and I'm gonna see if it sticks a little bit here. I think that Royce and Ramirez take up the same space. I think we're essentially saying playing the same player just in two different positions.
Mm-hmm.
What if you stuck Miguel Berry up top, or not when Nascimento is healthy? Right, we're assuming he comes back in a week or so. I think Vanny said it was like 10 days, and that was about a week or so ago. So assuming that he comes back and he's able to give you some minutes on Sunday, what if you put Ramirez in? If Vanny continues to play in the 4-3-3 or whatever he decides to do, if you put Ramirez in that Royce role, a little bit higher work rate, he's probably a little more fit than Royce at this point in his career. In that position, and you play Miguel Berry in the 9. I've enjoyed the Berry minutes. I'm a part of the Berry experience. I probably am considered a Berry sexual, in a lot of ways, because I think that I think he's a perfect MLS striker. He just does a bunch of dirty work. He gets in behind. He creates space for Peck. I think that Peck's looked the best when Berry's been on the field. I don't think it's a coincidence that we scored a goal when Berry was on the field and he created the play, right? You just have this brute who's willing to make the runs and do the hard work, which Ramirez, he's 33, and Royce, how is Royce 36? You're asking too much of guys that are past it in terms of being the pressing structure. But Berry, on the other hand, is the guy that you can totally rely on to do that. And he's not him getting 60 minutes in a game is a blessing at this point in his career.
Yeah, Barry will gladly play 90.
Right?
For sure.
That's his dream.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
don't dislike the idea at all. I just worry about it. Just doesn't seem like something Vanny would do. It seems a bit too out of the box. He's never been one to kind of throw stuff at the wall like that. It takes him I feel like in seasons before he would have stuck even more with the game plan, but since he has that pressure of coming off champions, he's more inclined to change it up, and especially the injuries. I think he was just kind of forced into playing this back 5 today. I don't know if his hand isn't forced. I feel like he's not going to do something like that. But I don't dislike the idea.
Yeah,
I agree with both of those points. I think Ramirez would do pretty well in that kind of not quite the 10 role, but in that link up role to really link up the midfield and the attack. That's what Vanny called him. He's a link up player, and he called a Barry a runner. Comes in, is a destroyer, like you mentioned. So I would like to see the idea of both of them. But if Vanny were to do that, maybe something like a 4-4-2, but where do you get 2 other midfielders? Something like that. So it's tricky. So I think what you mentioned is probably a great way to go about it, a good solution. But again, like Dari mentioned, I don't know if Vanny goes for that. But I mean, I mentioned FIFA earlier, but if I'm playing FIFA and I'm in career mode manager, that's a switch I'm looking at making if I'm in this position for sure.
There's just no right answer. So in my head, this is every time I'm watching the game, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I would do. Like I get paid the money to make this shit happen, right? And it's just not like if there's a good shot that if I had proposed that to Vanny, he'd look at me and slap me in the face, right? He'd be like, "Are you stupid?" Like I watch this guy Barry and I watch Ramirez every day in training, and you're telling me that you think that they can play together, sure, bud. You know what I mean? But there are positives to take from this game. I'm actually not too disappointed in the result. Me and Dari predicted 1-1. This isn't that far off from it. It gives you a shot in the return leg at home where we lost one game. But in general, we've been much better at home over recent years. And coming back to Diggs and having the ability to go in there and shut up shop and see out maybe a 2-1, or sorry, not a 2-1. That would see us out. A 2-0 or a 3-1. I can get behind the idea of that. I'm not disappointed, especially with the travel that these guys have been doing. Get back home for the next 2 matches. I think that's a huge advantage, and hopefully you can get some goals. Hopefully, I think that they get the chances that they get today, and maybe it's not Royce in those positions, or it's not Fagundes trying at Travella. Maybe we're in a better spot. My last thought on this game, and you guys can tell me where you're at in the level of this. I think McCarthy has to start from here on out. I'm okay with experimenting it. I know we spent a bunch of money on it. I don't like playing out of the back in the MLS. It's just not the thing that I'm most comfortable with, and I sure as hell feel more comfortable with McCarthy in that than I do with Mitrovic. Where are you guys at with that?
Here's my 2 cents on it. I didn't see us try to play out of the back with our goalkeeper once today.
Yeah,
And I don't understand why we have convinced ourselves that Mitrovic is a ball playing keeper, because he's proved to us time and time again that he's not. And I don't think that us not playing out of the back with our goalkeeper affected our general play today. So I think keep Mitrovic in, give him his chance, and stop playing it to his feet. That I don't understand why we're so insistent on doing that.
Yeah,
I thought Mitrovic has been doing well, except for when he gets it at his feet. He's made some great saves.
mhm.
Kept us in that San Diego game for a little while before that second goal came. But yeah, I think he deserves his shot still. I think give him a few more games. If he makes another big mistake, maybe we can revisit that, in my opinion.
where are you at, Andrew?
I'm kind of, I feel like in the middle. I definitely am an advocate for giving Mikovic more time. What I feel like he's missing is just that game IQ, that game time. You don't learn if you don't play. He's
That's
been
fair.
on riding our bench for a
Yeah,
couple of years now. And so it's like with these younger players, you put them in, you expect them to make mistakes, but you play them so they can develop, actually learn, get a feel for an actual game. There's no replicating an in-game scenario, and the same goes for keepers. So I want to back him, and I think like you mentioned, Dari, the great saves he's made. He's shown himself to be a really, really good shot stopper. Uh, yeah, but the playing out the back thing, it's hard. Like it's our DNA. It's Vanny ball almost 101, and it's so much easier when you have Ricky Pooch to play out of the back. The way
yep,
he drops all the way back almost to the
yeah.
defense to pick up the ball, he'll do it for you. So knowing that he's missing, maybe we don't make that mistake in San Diego with Ricky Pooch on the field. So it feels, I don't know, hard to put those playing out the back mistakes on him. But yeah, I'm one for giving Mikovic some more time. John McCarthy, obviously a great keeper, won us the sixth cup. So, I commend him. But I don't know, in the goalkeepers, it feels like the only place where things are going right now where we're in the best position you could be with two really number ones. That's really what you'd want. It's a dream scenario. No matter who you play, you feel confident you have a good shot stopper back there. So, yeah, I mean, I back Mikovic 100%. It just sucks the situation that the team is in right now isn't really necessarily letting him shine as much as maybe he should be, because he has made good saves. And I think in another season where Puig is there, helps him build out the back, we're talking more about those saves than the mistakes.
That's a good point.
That's fair. Maybe I'm just not seeing it because he should be hand tied with Ricky, right? Like Ricky is what makes this team go at the end of the day, and we don't have him.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I'm like more on the McCarthy train, is because I just don't see this team having a person that can progress the ball through the early stages of play. And I'd rather just see us boot it to a barrier, boot it to a Ramirez, and try to build that way.
Right.
And it's just so strange. Like the MLS is so strange. Like, could you imagine if, let's just say it was David De Gea and United had won a Premier League, and the next season they got Onana and they were like, oh, well, this guy plays with his feet, so we're going to go with him now over you. And you get the cup games. I think that this will become more of an issue if we are to drop out of this tournament, right? We're playing twice a week, and so the rotation is there for them both to be happy. But if we do, like, let's just say Wednesday goes poorly, or next Wednesday goes poorly, we're out of this competition. You've got two number ones competing for once a week for the next,
Right.
for the next 2 months until League's Cup comes around. And I'm just not sure that either way, one of those guys is going to be happy. We also have 4 keepers on the roster still.
I honestly think because Marszakowski was one of the best keepers in the league before his injury. I mean, He's on the comeback. It could be interesting to see what happens.
So you're just even proving the point more. You're gonna have 3 number ones at a certain
Yeah,
point.
it's a really interesting.
It's a great trade piece, right? I'm assuming that's why Kuntz did this, and it's the ability to move one of these guys on as he sees fit.
Yeah, I think that's why.
But I think you're just playing with fire in this situation, and Mitrovic has already proven that he's willing to test the waters there in terms of, hey, I'm not gonna show up to practice if I'm not playing, right? And so let's just say the tides turn and McCarthy gets back in favor. Like, how quickly does he just go, I'm gone, like, get me out of here? And then we're already in a bad situation. Losses start to compile. I'm worrying from like maybe a couple weeks from now situation that is just in fantasy land, because we could go on to win the next 2 games and it's all great in Galaxy land. But like, it's kind of where the headspace of which I'm in it right now. I just don't know.
I totally get it. And I mean, this is all conjecture from my part on making this up, but who's to say those conversations haven't been had? It really feels like the whole point that Mikovic is playing right now is to show that he's a solid keeper, really to shop him around and get him that move someplace else.
Good point.
If we just take him off the bench right now, who's going to come in? Who's going to want him?
Right. We paid a good amount for him, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right. So that's what I feel like. Josh Gessman of Corner of the Galaxy, super plugged in guy. He's kind of been alluding to that for a while now, that's the plan with Mikovic. Play him, get some eyes on him, and get some offers, eventually let him go. We have Marsikowski still, Mikovic still there. So it feels like that's kind of the plan, but the crux of that is to trust Mikovic for a little bit.
Yeah.
Let him show himself, let him earn that high value transfer.
Yeah. Losing doesn't help in that situation.
Yeah, he's got to stop passing it to Garces.
Yeah. To be fair, Garces isn't doing him much favors. He did it again tonight. He is a fantastic defender, and he's part of the reason we've looked all right is like he's just a Rolls Royce player. So quick, so speedy, but every once in a while he's got that Southern American trait where they just have that one mistake in a game where you're like, oh my God, that's the most boneheaded mistake that you possibly could have made in that situation. He does it with his feet more often than not, where I'm like, oh, please stop. Please just pass the ball away. Get it away. Hopefully we just win the next 2 games and this all, my concerns go away. Okay, cool. So we hit that game. I mean, I guess we kind of touched on Vancouver a little bit there. Kind of, sort of, with the injury crisis. I don't know if Andrew, did you have any thoughts about that game in general, or was it more just like we're in this crazy injury crisis and don't know what to do?
Yeah, that's really what it boils down to. It didn't get, much better, but for most of that game, for at least 2/3 of it, we did have Sanabria. We did, not having Mickey Amane, I feel like is massive too. He's so important to the way we play, to supporting Peck, to really that stability in the back of the pitch as well. First time we had to see Garces kind of filling in as a right back in that Vancouver game. That was a little bit interesting, but he did really well, surprised me. But that was just a tough game. But again, Barry comes in, gets a start in that game, and I feel like earned his starting spot there, at least maybe in the league. I'd like to see him a lot more, but I mean, he's a dog. He created that goal pretty much on his own. And I talked about Elijah Winder a little bit earlier. So a player who excites me. He sets up that pass as well. Gets that ball into Barry, sends him to fight for it. And man, fight did he? He fight does he? So it was a good game. But I mean, after that, we held on to the 1-1. I felt we defended pretty well. We just could not escape that press. And I don't want to single him out, but Edwin Cerrillo is a player I've had my eye on. He's kind of been almost alone in holding down that midfield. He's really the true CDM now. Last season, we had Gaston Brugman, Mark Delgado really helping him out. It was kind of a double pivot. Now it's really just him and a couple of attacking midfielders. And I feel like he's been struggling kind of holding down the fort, being that lone executioner. We talk about Garces and Mikovic's mistake in San Diego. We can blame both of them, but before that, Cerrillo passed it back to Mikovic when he could have passed it out to Nelson, progressed a little bit. Right. And it's just been a lot of passing back. In that game against Vancouver, we weren't able to break that press because there's just a lot of passing back or the passes forward wouldn't work out. And I feel like a lot of that does rest on Cerrillo. He's had a little bit of a rough start to the season. And when we're talking about a midfield where you have Marco Royce, Diego Fagundes sometimes filling in, and a couple of younger guys, you need someone. I mean, Edwin Cerrillo's 24, 25, pretty young himself, but we need him to be kind of that veteran presence in the midfield.
Uh-oh. We freeze up?
But I feel like he's going to need some support. He looks really great with that double pivot last year, but on his own, I've been a little bit unsure.
Yeah, he's an interesting player. I think that he's definitely a Vanny system player, just as Delgado was, and I feel bad for him if I'm being completely honest with him. Like I agree. I don't think he's been at his top. I don't think that these are great performances by any means. I just think that he's being hung out to dry.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know what he's expected to do. He's never been a deep line playmaking six, Busquets role, get him the ball, ping it out. He's your safe playing, get him the ball, and then he's going to just make the safe option, which is why he went back to Mitrovic, which is why in this game where we saw him, he tried to go long once, and he put the ball straight out of play trying to play Peck long. And Peck was all frustrated, and it's like, we're trying to make him into something he's not here. I think every once in a while he'll have a thunder bastard on him. He'll, rip the net apart. But in his true core, he's just a destroyer who will play the safe option and is going to get the ball to the next person, right? Like, that's what makes him so great with Ricky is like, all you got to do is just get the ball back to Ricky and Ricky makes things happen. That's where we're really missing Ricky is for Cerrillo. Honestly, that's been the shining light of, if you want to say, how did the Galaxy solve the Ricky problem? The answer is it's impossible because there's nobody that can do what he does.
We have to change the way we play entirely.
Yep. Which I think this is a great springboard to go into the weekend game against St. Louis. I want to hear both of your thoughts. We'll start with you, Dari, on what you think should be the game plan going forward in terms of getting this Galaxy team through the first phase and getting results.
I think we should go with the back five for the time being, especially with Sanabria out. We're kind of forced into that again. And I thought we were really doing well in it today. I thought everything changed when we took it out. And then we kind of lost hold of the game. We lost the ball. They were all the momentum was really on their side. So I think if we keep that back five against a St. Louis team that has looked pretty toothless, I think we'll be able to hold them, and I think the chances will come. There's going to be mistakes, especially at our house. It'll be a game that is for sure winnable. And I think if we can't, I know all things considered, it's a lot of excuses that are valid, but I think there's some questions that will arise if we lose this game. Or even a tie, I think some questions will arise.
Yeah.
And losing or dropping points in 4 straight is going to be real insufferable. Like this fan base is pretty quick to turn, and Vanny hasn't seen the most grace during his time, right? Like, and he's had plenty of excuses to kind of get him through it. 4 in a row, I think it's too uphill for this team to not have the pressure completely boil over. I think it's already there, right? Like Fagundes, I think in his last press conference after Vancouver was saying that this next one was like almost like a must win for them. You didn't get it. So
it didn't really look like that the way they were playing either, though. It's
no.
Leggy is lethargic. I'm not
maybe the 7 hours of travel changed his mind. He said that right after the Vancouver game, and maybe he got on that plane and was like, "Fuck this, dude."
Went to the airport bar before the flight.
After their 50th round of solitaire on the plane, they were like, "I can't do this anymore. Can't do this anymore." Andrew, what do you think is the best game plan moving forward in this St. Louis game?
Yeah. Honestly, I really like what you mentioned earlier. Maybe having Christian Ramirez kind of in that false 9 role, maybe, and then Barry as your true 9. kind of to bring things together. But I don't think Danny's going to go for that. So what I've been wanting since I was really, really high on Winder as soon as I saw him in those minutes against San Diego. Barry, he came on with Barry, I believe, and I felt like they completely changed that game. So I want to see that from the jump. I want to see Barry up top, running, creating havoc, making things happen, distracting some defenders a little bit from Gabriel Peck, giving him some room to actually operate. And I want to see Winder. I do feel like he's a really good progressor of the ball, really, really great attacking mind. So I want to see him maybe start for Royce. I feel like just those two changes would give us a little bit of a different look, more of a little bit that bite to start off, and then bring on Royce against some tired legs. Bring on Ramirez maybe all same thing against some tired legs. If you have someone who's struggling, that's always what I go to. Bring them on against tired legs. Let them. It's always going to be easier than playing against someone fresh, playing for 70 minutes. So yeah, I want to see Winder. I want to see Barry. But besides that, what we could do better to change the game is just get healthy. We're gonna really just have to wait it out until we start getting some guys back. Even just getting Yamane back it'll be a couple of weeks, but that'll be big. Getting Joseph Paintel back will be massive. So we gotta, thug it out right now is what we gotta try to do. But maybe make those changes. Bring in Winder, bring in Barry. We have some dogs in them, I think. So let them bark a little.
Yeah, let them push you through this portion of the season, which is going to be rough, but you got to find results. And I think to your point, letting the dogs speak is probably the best way through that. Let your youth help push you through, at least from an energy standpoint. And then once you can kind of let that get you to the 60th, that's when your quality can come in and take over games.
Yeah.
Dari just put in our chat, and I can't believe that I totally forgot about mentioning it. Maybe because this game has just totally blinded me.
Yeah.
But Sanabria gets stomped on in the Vancouver game. It's not. I don't even remember if it was looked at by VAR. Fisher is nowhere to be. Oh, they looked at it. Great.
Afterwards.
Yeah,
He got suspended, I think, for a game and a fine.
And he got a fine. So they totally looked at it afterwards and went, "Yeah, that should have been a red card." 1-1. Sanabria then. I mean, there's a whole butterfly effect to what happens if he gets a red. Does Sanabria have to make a bolting run back and land on his shoulder if it's a red card in a 1-1? Yeah. Probably not. We're probably controlling the game from that point. Who knows? A red card totally flips that game on its head in our direction.
Mm-hmm.
And
I didn't think we were playing bad at that point either.
No. And then you have
balance.
Royce against 10 men. We were just talking about the importance of quality against 10 men on turf, like especially on turf.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would have completely changed the game. And the worst part about that whole situation is obviously 30 minutes. It was like in the 60th, right? 30 minutes of up a man it's fundamentally a different sport, right? And we don't even get to see the repercussions of that. Instead, we actually concede a 90th minute winner, right? So like the game from that perspective, it could totally be, who knows, we go on to win that game. Even if we just pull out the 1-1 draw, like we're looking at this match today in probably a whole different light. We're looking at Sunday in a whole different light.
It changes the whole outcome of the buzz surrounding the team. I mean, if we come out of that game with a draw, it's fine. It's against a good Vancouver team who's looked electric to start the season. It changes the whole climate. But now we're sat here with 3 losses, and it's looking rough. The one positive is the manner of these losses has not been the worst. Yeah, we look a little toothless, but we're still getting a little hard done by. I think the ref today also gave us
not
a hard
as great.
time.
Not as great.
3 subs in overtime, in extra time, and he blew it 10 seconds
blew it early.
On top of other things. But
that's probably the most CONCACAF refereeing of all time, where you're like, dude, you blew it 10 seconds early, and there were subs in this period. Like you're supposed to stop your watch at that point. I think it's like refereeing 101.
Stoppages.
Yeah. Yeah, he was like, "Oh, dude, I'm tired. Like, it's muggy out here. It's hot out here. It's 70. I don't. Are they in a different time zone? It was 70 and it was dark, and I was like, oh, that's not a good feeling. I can't imagine that's a fun experience. officiating sucks in CONCACAF and in the MLS. And Fisher, I feel like every time we go with him on the field, like this isn't new for Fisher. Like he's just the worst. He's one of the worst. He's up there in the top 3 worst referees where I'm like, dude, like you have an impact every time I see you on the pitch. Like stop having an impact.
We get major injuries whenever he referees as well.
That's
things
true.
like that don't get whistled, so it's definitely hard. It's hard. But those are the things you got to play through. That's a challenge, right? Trying to overcome those. But when you got kind of a depleted squad, it's just so difficult. We're scratching our head for options, for solutions. I can't imagine Vanny and the coaching staff right now. They must be, going through it. I don't envy them right now.
No, it's got to feel like the world's against you, right? Like, and you have something like that happen. Like even today, Vanny was like, Audi just got hit in the face.
Yeah,
and he got a yellow card.
Stiff armed in the face.
You already have a target on your back as the MLS Cup champions. Like everyone says it in the media. Like that's not you become, in a basketball sense, you become like the Lakers, where it's like you're going to get everyone's best every single night, right? Regardless of if they're in first, if they're in last, like they're always going to give you their hardest challenge because you are the champions and everyone is aiming for you. And so you already got that. You compound it with the injuries, you compound it with this refereeing decision. And like you said, it's an impossible position for Vanny and the coaching staff to be dealing with. That's got to be so tough. That's why they get paid the big bucks, though, and I don't.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
That's why we get to go on here and just speak our minds.
We get paid the no bucks.
The no bucks. Well, who knows? Maybe TikTok cash eventually. Okay, I will segue into my thoughts on what we should do. I'm in agreement with both of you. Honestly, it's a mix of both. I think the 3-back, 5-back is the way to go. I enjoy Nelson and Aude on the left side. I think just by putting Yamane in, we are fundamentally a much better team. You could see the pockets that Miller was picking up. And I'm assuming for him, a 17-year-old who's only probably played right back, he was struggling to just figure out those half spaces in those midfield areas. But adding Yamane, and I've already said that I think he's a Rolls-Royce defender, you put him in those spaces next to Cerrillo, next to Peck, I think it unlocks the offense. I think you're going to see Peck getting in behind. We texted in the chat during this game, if Yamane is playing instead of Miller, and Miller had a good game, I'm not slighting his game. I thought he had a good performance. But if you put Yamane in here, we're probably up 2 or 3 goals in the first half, right? Like he probably finds the pass. I guarantee in this St. Louis game, if Yamane plays, please, I hope he plays, there's going to be a pass where Peck is dropping a little deeper, which is part of this new system, which is kind of nice to see, is you're intentionally getting the ball to your best player earlier. But Yamane is going to find the ball in the half space. He's going to ping it across the field to what my big change is I hope Ramirez is actually in that left cam spot instead of Ramos Jr. or Fagundes. I hope that's Ramirez. And Ramirez is able to find Barry on the early cross in. I think that's going to happen. I have this gut feeling that Yamane is what's going to springboard this team into scoring goals. And I think that we're going to pull out a result just from that alone. Where Vanny takes this, I don't know. I hope that him and his coaching staff go straight to the 3-back, though. Even if it's not even Nelson in that left-sided center back role, and maybe he goes with Zonka there, or he pushes Yoshida out to the left there. I just think that with the lack of options, you have to go with that structure. Put Winder in there with Cerrillo, just have legs for days, and have those 2 wing backs, Aude and Yamane, control the game with the width. And hope that you have enough talent going forward with, I think, with Peck and Ramirez, and even if it's Barry, which he's not the most talented player, I think that's enough to get you a result at home. It should be.
I agree. Yeah. Against the St. Louis team that doesn't look like they've done much so far this season.
No, they can't score. And this is also the second straight week that they've had to travel to the West Coast. They were just in San Diego. And now they're coming right back to LA. Like I don't know if they stayed out here. I'm assuming they probably did. But if they didn't, like St. Louis to San Diego, St. Louis to LA that's tough travel for any team.
I'd be pissed if I was one of their players.
Yeah.
Almost like LA to Vancouver to Costa Rica to LA.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty similar. It's like making this giant triangle of just death. The Bermuda Triangle.
There you
That's what I'll
go.
go with. Yeah. Cool. So what we like to do for these games and previewing them is we go with the star player and then our prediction for the match. So going into this St. Louis game, Andrew, how are you feeling? Who's your star player? Who's your impact player? And what's your prediction for this match on Sunday?
Star player. I think I want to say like an attacker, someone up front, maybe Barry. I think, but I don't know. My heart says Barry. My head goes Garces. I think he's just been the best player on the pitch in the past couple of games. I think he's going to keep that up. Uh, that calf injury he picked up a little bit is so good. Glad that it was just a little strain. He picked up from that. But I mean, he's going to pick up a lot of minutes in this season, so that has me a little bit concerned just health wise. But again, my head, I think our star player, our best player, is going to be Garces. It's just a rock, another dog who just fights all the time, so quick, so rapid, amazing in recovery. But I think Barry, if he starts or gets good minutes, he's going to impact the game. He's shown that pretty much every time he's played. So between them two, and after that was a prediction, right?
Yeah, prediction.
A prediction. I want a 2-1. I don't think we keep a clean sheet, unfortunately, but I think a 2-1. Maybe, yeah, I was going to say maybe 1-0. Maybe we do end up keeping that clean sheet. I don't see us maybe doubling our score tally is a little bit of a tall task as well when you think of everything, but I'm going to say 2-1. I think we're going to pick some up. Barry's going to get some minutes. Weiner's going to get some minutes. They're going to impact the game. Some late magic from Royce, who's going to really arrive, show what he's about. So I'm going to say 2-1.
2-1. Nice.
I do think we're
I'm
gonna keep
not far off.
I'm gonna go 2.
You think we're going to keep it? Whoa, look at you.
Star player Peck. He's gonna goal and an assist, and the assist gonna be to Barry. That's my prediction.
To Barry.
Prediction.
Damn fucking straight it is.
If that's
Damn
correct, I'm gonna
fucking
buy
straight.
like 10 lottery tickets.
You should, and you should get a Barry jersey.
Yeah,
I'm pretty close to getting a Barry jersey. I love him. He's great.
That would be the easiest one to get signed. Like, holy
Dude,
shit,
if he,
someone has my jersey.
I'd probably be super upset if he didn't sign it. His wife pops up on our TikTok all the time.
Oh yeah, I've seen her too.
Yeah, so maybe it would just be like a C.O.C. DM. Hey, I love your husband. He's my favorite. Please.
I don't know. So I love.
Yeah. Okay. Who do I think? I think I've said Yamane too many times to pick Yamane because I think it's Yamane.
Do we know he's
That's
gonna
my
play?
stir fight. No,
That's what
but I still want to pick him.
Yeah.
I still want to pick him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, that's so tough. I'm gonna go Aude because I'm not sure if Yamane's gonna play, but I'm gonna go Aude because I thought he really grew into the game in the second half. And I think that if you put him in positions where he can be our best player on the wings, it just is another outlet to get Peck going on the right. So I'm going to go Aude as our star player, and I'm going to go 1-0. I'll give us the 1-0 on this one to be different. I have gotten every score line correct so far. I just picked the Galaxy to win in both of them, which is super tough. Tonight's was the only one I've gotten completely wrong.
The loss?
No, I can't. I won't do it. It's not in my blood. Even if this was the worst season of all time, we lose every single game. I will predict us to win every single game because I love this team. I'm never gonna predict us to lose. It might be to my, that's not a great choice. It probably isn't the smartest choice. People might think I don't know ball, but I won't go against my beliefs. Okay, I won't go against my beliefs. Yeah, I don't have any more to say. I think that this was a productive, almost semi-therapy session, and good point of stability for me because I think I needed it, especially after that one, especially with it being so fresh after it just ended. But do you guys have anything more to say on either of the matches, or?
I think that does it for me.
You good, Andrew?
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for the chance to talk.
Yeah.
Super cool seeing what you guys are doing. Definitely keep it up. I always love getting to know more Galaxy creators, especially in the space. Super exciting. We're just gonna grow it out. So appreciate you guys having me on, the opportunity, and yeah, looking forward to hopefully talking again soon.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Love to have you on again and do this again. Plug yourself real quick, even if it's to our 5 very faithful viewers. Plug yourself real
appreciate
quick.
that.
Tell them where they can find you.
It might double the readership. You can catch my articles every week on Los Angeles Sports Nation. We'll have another one coming out tomorrow, recapping that game. We do also another weekly special article after matches that we get to cover. So keep an eye out on those home weeks. But you could also follow me on Twitter, social media at NGFAndrew, and on Instagram at Nuestra Galaxia Futbolera. Would appreciate to catch you guys there.
Hell yeah. Well, from myself, Dari, and Andrew, thank you guys for listening. This has been Clash of Cosmos, episode 3, and we will see you guys in the next one.
LA are the champions. They're going to go alone. Still back. What a goal. It's 6. They just cannot stop scoring. The volley from Bono. Yes. San Jose carved open with a world-class pass from Ricky Pooch.
Glittering Galaxy, and Landon Donovan is the match winner.